what's up, everybody? My name is Juan. This is my wife, Jennifer, my beautiful wife. We are pastors of KOG Ministries, which stands for King of Glory Ministries, and we're just a little small part of a bigger King of Glory Ministries, which actually started in Coral Springs, Florida. And then little by little, God opened the doors for other ministries to grow, which now we have KOG in Claremont, which is close to Orlando, Port St. Lucie. We have Pakistan, right? And Cuba. And so we're just the smallest ones that, you know, God put here as a plan. And we're just being obedient to that. It's a long story. We have, you know, I feel like we're passionate about what we're doing here and what God is going to do here in this community. I feel like He's placed us here for a reason. And this little introduction podcast thing, I don't know exactly what it is that we're doing, but it's a long time coming that it was put in our hearts, but we just kept putting it off and off and off. So with that said, we are here, King of Glory Ministries in Newport, North Carolina. So my question to you is, how did we get here?
So I'm starting first?
You're starting first.
Okay, how did we get here?
I'm passing on the mic.
Okay, I think it is appropriate that I start first because I felt the call to pastor years ago.
She sure did. She sure did.
I'm talking about like almost 15 years ago when we were first stationed here in North Carolina. And I was like, didn't know what I was seeing or feeling. And now that I look back on how every church we were at, God was preparing us for this time and this moment. And we didn't realize it then. But for whatever reason, I mean, we were in ministry, we were leading groups, we were always close to the pastors, even when we didn't try to be. It just naturally happened, and people gravitated towards us. So I felt that call from
So you saw that 2011?
Yes, that's when we came, and that's when I started sensing something. But then I, was like, I didn't know how or when, right? And so years went by, and we have 4 kids. You're in the military, just retired, a few years now, right? I was doing my schooling and my career, nursing school, and then going back for my master's and all of that. So there was a lot of moving parts, raising kids, just a lot. But from that time to just up until a few years ago, there was just, I felt like a lot of up and down, like with us individually, spiritually, right? And as a couple. But I always sensed it, and I just started praying for my husband because I felt like I was accepting it, but you weren't. Like I could see how, you loved God, you would serve, but you were content with that. And it was like, and I'll let you say your side of the story. But there was a lot of things that I saw, and I was just praying. Like I was praying that God would get a hold of you. But I felt like, there was just, at least for me, and I know we kind of talked about this, we feel the same way that where we were. And it's nothing bad against any church that we've been at. It was like God's way of saying, okay, now it's time to move on. And so, I don't know if you remember, we talked about, man, we feel like we're not growing spiritually. We feel like we're stuck, right? Yeah. Like we feel like we're not a part of anything. It was almost as little by little God was separating us.
Yeah, I feel like we were kind of, in the routine of things, going through the flows, serving, obviously.
Comfortable.
We were comfortable, because it was a place that we can just go and serve, and we knew that, know, we were not serving ourselves, but people, you know what I mean? And what we were, faithful, at that place. Yeah. And so for me, like you talked about, like how we went to different churches and everything, and every time we moved, we were always close to the pastors, or you know, they wanted us to, they trusted us with the responsibility of, you know, handling some other things, you know, maybe like a little part of their ministry. But we were able to learn, you know, and I think for me, it took a long time for me. I think it does this with men specifically. You know, the calling, right? Because I never saw myself this way. I never saw myself, you know, being a pastor or, you know, being in charge of people or anything. That's our dog.
Yeah, don't mind him.
Yep, he's just a baby. He's a loud baby.
He is.
Our sixth child. Actually, our fifth child.
Good. Don't add any more kids to us. Go to your bed. This is us, y'all. This is real.
This is us.
The ice maker's going off. It was completely silent up until this point. Okay, go ahead.
That's how you know it's meant to be.
Yeah,
It's not, you know, it's not programmed.
Yeah.
So this is us. This is who we are.
Yeah.
We're from the 305, just so you know. So I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Miami-Dade County.
We grew up in the hood, and you know, we're just hood people that love God and love people, and you know, we have tough skin. So you know, but I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this?
So like we were close to pastors at other churches.
So we were very close to them. And I feel like they took us under their wing.
Yeah.
Because they saw something in us.
Right.
They saw how faithful we were. They saw, you know, our compassion for other people. They saw, you know, how, you know, like a strong family that we, you know, we had that strong family tie, you know, and I think they gravitated to us. They saw that, and so they were like, man, these guys have something going on for themselves, you know, and I think that's just God. You know, it's nothing that we did different. It's nothing that we try to be or try to become. I think it was just that, you know, God's, you know, purpose in our life.
Yeah, and I remember even back in 2011, 2012, so the founders of KOG Ministries in Coral Springs, it's actually my husband's sister, Grace. Shout out
to Grace.
To Grace and Robert Martinez. We love them. They're family. They're our spiritual leaders, and so we look up to them. But I remember talking to her those years ago, and they started KOG in Coral Springs about 15, 16 years ago. And I remember it vividly. I was sitting, we lived in Tessie Trail in New Bern. I was sitting in the living room and just talking to her over the phone, and I was like, man, Grace, am I crazy? Like, this is what I'm sensing. And I'll never forget, I can tell she kind of laughed. She knew all along, and she basically said that. She's like, you guys don't see how all these years God is preparing you. And at that time we were leading like the couples ministry, you know, the marriage ministry at our church here in New Bern. And so she was like, we've seen it. It's just been preparation. But it's crazy because just like King David, he was anointed to be king several years before he actually took the throne.
Right.
There was persecution. I mean, there was Saul. He went through a lot before, but the promise was there. Yeah. Right. And so I kind of feel like that's kind of how we were. And then when we, you know, you have your little road to Damascus moment, and I'll let you talk about that, and I'll share a little bit that dream. But this was like almost 3 years ago, right? Just about
3 years, 4 years ago.
Yeah. And so that we started sensing it strong to the point that we were like, okay, if we don't listen, this is straight out, flat out disobedience to God.
Right.
And, you know, we started talking with Robert and Grace about it. And, you know, we felt the call to be like part of KOG, you know? And so that's how it kind of just all started. And here we are, like our little church has been going for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But I just knew that there was like a shift, but God had to do something in you first and in me and then us together. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I mean, clearly he did, because I never, you know, like I said before, I never saw myself in this, capacity. I never thought that this was anything for me, especially, after retiring from the military. I was aspiring to be something else. I wanted to do something else. I was pretty much, done. I was on my Jonah moment, I guess, you want to say, but I felt something around that time too, 2011, which scared me, and I didn't want to be part of it. I said, God, I don't want to do this. I'm good where I'm at. I'm good serving. I could do the sound all day. I can greet all day. I can open doors. I can go to the parking lot, and be okay with that, and just live my normal life and read my Bible and do my devotionals, and now you can listen to podcasts and live your life as a Christian. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, it was almost, I don't want to say like a wake up call, and I don't want to say something like supernatural, spiritual that happened to me.
Yeah.
But when I knew that I knew that I knew it was God for sure. And you had the dream, right?
Yeah.
That I didn't know about.
Right.
That you were praying for so many years. And then God specifically used somebody that you told that dream to on that day. And it just so happened to be, at a Sunday service. And I know some people say that, I didn't find God at a church or whatever. I found God in my lowest point, which I was going through a low point. I think at that point, I felt like I was in darkness. I felt like I was in heaviness. I was being tormented, and I told you about all those things, and I felt like, at that time I was just going through a routine, and I remember that service, I felt, this is it. Like, I felt a burning sensation on my chest that I couldn't resist, and I knew it was the Holy Spirit, and I said, I'm fighting it. So I remember I'm just fighting. I don't want to. I'm fighting it, and I knew I had to surrender. I knew I had to just let everything go and just let everything be, and just fully surrender my life, and what people say, the calling, right? Like that. That for me was a personal call from God. This is what I'm asking you to do. Right. And if you don't do it now,
almost like now or never.
It was almost like now or never. So, so we were sitting in the chairs, and praise and worship was going, and I just felt like I needed to go out there and just surrender at the altar. It was an altar moment.
Yeah. And
I knew that I had to go over there and just, surrender everything and just put everything in the altar. And I did. I did, and I just let it out. I said, I'm here. I surrender. Do what you want to do with me. Here I am. Yeah. Kind of like that Isaiah moment. Yeah. Here I am. Send me.
Yeah. And so the funny thing is, I think it was only about a month before that I had the dream. And in the dream, we were at church, and it happened exactly the way it happened for real. We were sitting there, and the praise and worship was going. One of my best friends is on the worship team, one of the worship leaders, and she was singing in the dream.
She knows who she is.
She knows who she is. We're not gonna say any names. But then all of a sudden, he just kind of went out and went to the front, and he was standing. He was even wearing the exact same color shirt that he was in my dream on that day. Stood in the same spot that you stood at that day. This is in my dream. He stood there, had his hands up, and was just surrendering, And I remember my friend was singing. And so when it happened for real, I was like, is this really happening? Like, I just couldn't believe it was exactly the same way. Yeah. And the thing is that I had just told my friend about it. And she leading the song was Available by Elevation Worship. And if you've never heard that song, you'll understand. Go listen to it. But it's basically like saying, Lord, here I am, send me, I'm available, right?
Yeah.
Use me as you want to. And so I could not believe. I was like, wow. If that was ever prophetic, I mean, I've had prophetic dreams, but that, it was like God just showing me, yes, you know? Yeah. And then I remember her coming down from the altar and she just like smacks him on the back.
She did.
She just started praying for him and I was bawling. And then it was like, ever since then, and this is not to say that like we're perfect or things have been perfect or we don't make mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden, no. But I realized that was your moment, you know? And I knew that we couldn't move forward in ministry together because when God calls you as a couple, it's not just for the one person. Like it's together, you know? And it wasn't that, I was called to be a pastor and he wasn't. I don't think that that's how God operates.
No, I don't think so.
And so, but I was just like, Lord, you gotta do something with this man because he is running. And we all saw it, you know, but... I'm running. Yeah, and then it's like, kind of like, you know...
I was booking it, bro.
He was like, Jonah.
I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'll do... whatever else you want me to do, I'll do it.
And that's why I said...
And I had no issue with that, you know?
Yeah.
I had no issue. Like, you want me to go up there and like, you know... And I'm not saying that, you know, being a pastor is just go out there and preach.
No, there's so much more to it.
I'm not saying that, you know, because I guess we kind of mistake that, you know what I mean? Like, oh, we're just going to go out there and just, you know, get a mic and just preach, you know what I mean? I think it's more than that. I think it's more relational, you know, because anybody can go up there and just... you know, preach a message. You know, I can read the Bible. I can read a couple of verses, you know, using a mic. But I think it's more than that. You know, it's just having that relationship.
And shepherding. And that's a big responsibility.
Yeah, and we saw that with a lot of, you know, the people that took us under the wing. That's the first thing that they taught us. You know what I mean? Or the things that I observe. You know? Yeah,
and it was... almost like God was showing us what not to do and what to do. But always from the very beginning, people just gravitated towards us. Like young people, married people, like older people, the pastors. We didn't go out looking for it. I remember when we got stationed here, I sat in the back row. You remember? We sat in the back row and we were like, we're not getting involved. Nothing. 3 weeks later, I'm like the pastor's secretary. Like he was like, listen, you guys need to minister.
And then he said, oh, I got this young Marine couple. I want you guys to minister.
That's how it started.
And so we started doing that, you know, side note, but we started doing that a little bit and we started doing it in our home and it grew to like, you know, 1 couple, 2, 6, 8 to eventually, you know, we were in our house and then we had to move into the church building.
And we had to split it up into 2 groups because it got so big.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just a lot. And so I feel like, and I mentioned like Paul on the road to Damascus, right? Like in Acts chapter 9 when Saul got his attention and he converted. He thought he was doing the right thing, right? Like he was persecuting the church. He was persecuting Jesus, you know, but in his mind and his heart, he thought he was doing the right thing. And I just feel like sometimes so many, you know, and that can kind of tie into our next episode that we're going to talk about discipleship, being a disciple of Christ. But people think, I'm doing the right thing. I'm just, you know, reading my little devotional, doing the sound. I'm happy doing that, you know, until you have that encounter with God, you know. And so... I just felt like it came at a point where we felt an urgency because there were souls, you know, and then it was like as soon as we said yes, all hell broke loose.
Yes.
We're not going to get into detail, but when I tell you that all hell, and it's something that we're still kind of walking through, came at us, and it was like, okay, so we're doing the right thing, but it comes with a cost. Right. You know what I mean? And then it was like people started coming out of nowhere, like friends of ours. You know, I know you people from previously the military and old friends of mine from back when we were in California. Yeah. You know, that God is, same thing, you know, they're coming to Christ. They want to know more. Like they feel like God is calling them, you know, and they just talk to us and open up to us. And so even though our physical church, you know, is small, Like, you know, we've lost
in
a
the
couple
beginnings.
families.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that in a little bit.
But we have sheep outside, and that's part of the reason why we wanted to do this.
Yeah.
You know?
And so many of them have asked, hey, do you guys have something online that we can watch or anything like that?
Yeah.
And, you know, my answer to that is like, no, we're not really ready. You know, we don't have the space, or we don't have anybody that can, you know, do that for us right now, you know, because it's just, you know, my wife and I, you know, so, but, you know, God opens the doors, and I think that He wanted for us to do this, and I've been praying about this, you know. I'm just gonna let y'all know straight up, I hate cameras. I can't stand them. This is not who I am, you know.
Yeah.
I don't like to be in front. I don't like to be the center of attention, but I'm doing this out of obedience. And I know that, and this is the word that God gave me. Because anything that we do, we try to pray about it, you know, not try, but we do pray about it, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait until God gives us a confirmation, right?
Yeah.
So, but everything that God has built, I know it has to be on His foundation. And that's why I want to read a little bit from Matthew chapter 7, verse 21. And this is almost at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, where He's talking about building your house on a rock. Right? So a lot of times we kind of do things, and I'm going to share a little bit about what happened last week. You know, sometimes we try to do things, you know, because we want to, or sometimes we try to do things because, you know, oh, I really need to do this, or I really need to start this podcast or do this Bible study, but we don't really pray about it.
Right.
We don't really, you know, consider God into, you know, like God has to be in it first, you know. And so last week we were supposed to record, and I wasn't ready. I felt like, you know, I didn't hear from God. I wasn't ready. You know, other things were in my mind. You know, I was being, you know, attacked and tormented, and you know, I was like, this is not it, and I'm not gonna do it unless God is in it. You know, so I just want to share this a little bit. Is Matthew chapter 7, starting at verse 24. It says, "Everyone then who hears these words of mine," and this is Jesus talking, "and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on a rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the wind blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock." Right? So everything that we do, we try to, you know, Christ has to be in it. Christ has, you know, He's our foundation. So this is why we're doing this, you know, and I know that God is going to breathe on this. We've had a lot of people ask us, you know, when are you guys going to do it? You know, when is this happening? Do you guys have something? Well, here it is. Yeah. You know, and like I said, we are passionate, you know, about spreading the gospel, and this is where discipleship comes, right? You begin to follow, you begin to, you know, you become a believer, and then you become a disciple, and then Jesus tells us, you know, to take out, you know, His teachings and make disciples, right? And that's where our ministry is centered at, you know, making disciples, to go therefore and make disciples.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. I think it's not funny, but it was like God letting us know. The people who would ask us, it's not like we would talk about, we have this on our heart.
And I'm talking about non-believers, people who have doubts, people who are looking for something, right? That's the people. I'm not talking about Christians. I'm not talking about other people that, you know, are believers or being in ministry for 15 years. This is people that are hungry, right? And I think this is the time, right? Yeah. This is the time, and I feel like I know everybody feels a shift, right? With everything that's going on, things are getting very serious, and we see little fires starting all across the country. Yeah. Right? Little revivals and everything. Yeah. So, and I went to pray one day at a park, here in our local area, and I felt God telling me like, call my people back. And this is about 2 years ago.
I remember.
He said, call my people back, and I just remember that like vividly, you know, like. So,
yeah, that's what we're doing. We're here. We hope you guys, you know, enjoy, join. We're gonna try to post. Did we say one every other week or once a month starting? I don't even know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We do want to eventually do at least twice a month, you know, every other week. But this was our intro. Like, share, subscribe.
This is who we are.
All the things. This is us.
Who knew that we would end up in North Carolina?
No. I'm talking, when he says we're from he's not kidding. We're from Miami, the hood of Miami, but we're saved and we're redeemed.
Yep. Not the flashy areas of Miami that everybody sees on TV or, you know what I mean?
No,
so,
none of that.
We're
real. We're just real. And I think that's what people are looking for. Sincerity, realness, not fake, nothing like that. And so, and like, you know, that word you used, people are hungry. People are hungry for God, and you know, you can't fool people. Like, they see fake, you know, they can spot.
Oh, they
fake.
can smell it.
Yeah,
they can smell fake.
So that's why we're doing this, and you know, we're just being obedient. And from here on out, we just kind of want to just share the word that God has placed in our heart. You know, my husband is a lover of the word. We both are. He's like the historian, I feel like, of the word, and he's really good at breaking things down. And so, you know, same with me, just whatever I feel like word God gives me, or for the moment, or a prophetic word, you know, we just want to share that. And it's time to get out of our
comfort zone.
And shell. And do what God has called us to do. So we hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah. Well, this is episode 1, so stay tuned for episode 2. We love y'all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.